right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'll go ahead and kick things off with intros and remind everyone why we're here. So I'm Carol, product marketer at Split, and we have Trevor, our co-founder and president, presenting some exciting new features today.
Awesome.
So Statuses and Rollout Board just launched last month, which is super exciting. They are the first in the industry to visualize the release process end to end, which helps development teams really oversee and control all their future rollouts and experiments at scale. So in this webinar, Trevor will go over how you and your teams can leverage Statuses and Rollout Board for better collaboration and efficiency. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Trevor. Tell us more about Statuses and Rollout Board.
Cool. So I will do a few things first. Thanks, Carol. Nice to see all of you. First, I'm going to do a few things. Going to talk a little bit about the introduction of the statuses object that you'll see in the board. I'll talk a little bit about how you can use that in filtering. We'll also dive a little bit into what is our rollout board, right? And kind of why did we introduce it? Kind of what did we see from our customers? Kind of how are you all using it today? We'll dive in a little bit on kind of why we did this, the benefits of it, and then more importantly, I'll kind of dive into a demo so you can quickly see it. And then of course, you know, what would a demo be if we didn't talk about kind of where we're going with this and kind of what we're adding to it. So you'll see kind of a few glimpses into the roadmap as we continue to innovate on this and push this forward. We did gradually roll it out and turn it on for a percentage of customers, saw great usage stats and great data. Decided to roll it out, and now we're continuing to innovate on it over the next couple of weeks and months. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dive in first on statuses. So what are statuses? Every single feature flag or experiment has a status, right? And the status is a representation of your software development lifecycle. This status could be 0% in production, or currently ramping, or maybe you're running an experiment, or maybe this flag is ready to be removed from your code, or it's a permanent flag, right? We see that often where people are using us for kind of these permanent feature flags. And so being able to have that state as well. And so these statuses are your way of being able to essentially group your feature flags by where they are in their software development lifecycle. Not only can you create these statuses and associate them to a feature flag, but you can also use these statuses in the browse pane. So you can see here on the left-hand side on the browse pane within Split, as you can filter with traffic type and tag, you can also filter by status or any other object. Now, similar to feature flags, the status is enabling technology for a lot of what you'll continue to see at Split and a lot of new features that you'll continue to see us build on. The very first one is what we call the rollout board. Many of you have started to see this in the product. You'll see it on the left-hand side of the navigation. The rollout board is a visual representation of where are all of your feature flags in their life cycle. You can see feature flags by status. You can see some key meta information about each feature flag. So maybe how many flags do you have ramping? How many are currently being rolled out? How many are in the experimentation phase? How many are 100% released and need to be removed from your code? You can see all that key meta information. But more importantly, you can start to see things such as how long has this flag been in this status, right? Has this flag been ramping for 14 days or 30 days, or how long has it been 100% released? You can also see whether it's receiving traffic in your environments, right? That environment within Split being production and staging. You can see some traffic indicators here. You'll see those green and red circles that tell you whether that feature flag is receiving traffic. If it's not configured, it might be gray, or if it's red, it hasn't received traffic yet. But you'll also see some icons start to show up on this board. So you'll see kind of two icons here. You'll see these two here. You have a little approval icon, which is there's a pending change to this feature flag, or has an alert gone off? Have we registered an alert? And you can click on these cards and you'll see a lot more information around kind of the meta object that is the Split feature flag and all of the information within an environment. So why did we decide to build these features? You know, why did we spend time building out statuses? Why did we build out the rollout board? Well, candidly, you know, when in speaking with customers, we saw our customers doing this today. Many of you were creating a Jira issue for every single Split feature flag, or an Asana task, or whatever your tool may be. You were creating a Kanban board view already, and you were tracing these feature flags throughout your different statuses and really replicating that process that we're bringing into Split today. You were replicating in the third-party tool. Now, when you do that, obviously it's error prone, right? You're maintaining two different tools. So you're maintaining Split, and let's just say Atlassian in this case, right? You're maintaining your Kanban board view within Atlassian, and you're maintaining your Split object within our product. So it's error prone, a lot of people involved here. You also get this, if you're not doing this today, you also have this risk of outdated or forgotten feature flags, right? This, in talking with many of you, we hear this terminology of feature flag bloat, right? Feature flags accumulating in my code. How do I manage those? So those flags that maybe are at 100% release, how do you know how many you have? A fun anecdote here. Our organization, so our Split instance of Split, we obviously use Split. Our Split instance has around 400 some odd feature flags in it. About 200 of those are already kind of released and need to be removed from the code, etc. And we've already removed a bunch of them, but it just kind of continues to highlight that need to get this visual layer so you don't have these forgotten feature flags and this technical debt which can accumulate. Now, as a user of Split, really, how can this help me? So there's kind of a few key parts, right? One is streamlining the feature delivery process, right? Keeping other team members up to date on where are my feature flags, right? How many are currently being rolled out? Since we've turned this on for our org, it's incredibly valuable to go in and be able to see how many feature flags are we currently internally testing? How many features are we currently ramping for our customers? Which ones are we running through an experiment? To be able to see that visualization is incredibly powerful. And we'll talk a little bit more about kind of what's coming and where we're headed on top of this. The second is, as we've seen our product continue to kind of get adopted across our customer base, we're seeing more and more teams, right? And that means that you have this manager level view, right? How do you think about understanding where are my teams in their use of feature flags and how many feature flags do they have? And so really getting that manager level view, that ability to collaborate together. And then that last one is really what we talked about on the last slide, which is reducing that technical debt, right? So how can I understand where are feature flags? How many of them do I have? And there's a lot more that we'll continue to build into this, but it's really about managing the life cycle of my feature flags and preventing that technical debt and that technical bloat that can accumulate. Awesome. So I think I'll dive into a demo in a second, but I wanted to kind of bring it one level, kind of bring it all together for all of you around kind of our feature delivery life cycle, right? You guys have seen me talk about this. If it was at Flagship, if you watched our Flagship conference and any of the recordings, you saw me unveil the feature delivery lifecycle with Brian. We dove in terms of kind of our roadmap and some of the things you'll see in the statuses and rollout boards is really kind of doubling down on that management and governance layer, right? Making investments in that dark blue circle that wraps the entire feature delivery lifecycle, whether it's going through kind of that initial develop, deploy, release at the top, or all the way through into the experimentation layer at the bottom. A lot of investments we've been making as a team are around that management and governance layer, right? It's how do we provide you that ability to manage feature flags at scale, to manage feature flags across hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of engineers within your organization, and giving you the security to do that with approval flows and other integrations that we will be coming out with soon. And so a lot of our investments of late have really been in that dark blue circle, that management and governance layer. Perfect. So how about I dive into a demo? I'll show you guys what this looks like in action. Perfect. So I'm going to flip screens here. Let me hop out of the presentation mode. I'll flip screens. Oh, not that one. Let's go here. Perfect. So now you're seeing the kind of Split UI, right? For many of you, this is very familiar. It's something that many of you are coming in daily or weekly to utilize. But I'm going to quickly click on the new onboarding flow. And we'll walk through the process of setting a status and kind of understanding where that is in its life cycle. So first thing, you can see that this is currently in the status of internal testing. Now you can always find the status for any given feature flag or experiment. You'll always see that in the top right? So you'll always know where is this in the life cycle. Currently, it's in the internal testing phase. But let's go through the process of ramping this, right? Let's ramp it to some of our customers, maybe move it into an experimental phase. And we'll go through that process as many of you do, right? We'll flip the default rule here to a percentage-based rollout, and I'll click Save Changes. Now, when I click Save Changes, of course, you'll see the change, right? You'll see the diff view that we have already. Let's just add a quick comment here. I'm going to begin ramp approved by the experiment. All right, I'm not going to set up an approver here because we're just doing a quick demo for you. But of course, if you're not using approval flows, 100% recommend it. You'll see a new section here called status. Right, so I'm going to flip this status to experimenting, and I'll click confirm here, and you'll see that this change will take effect. Now, of course, we can change that status up here as well, right? So that same change I made as part of the change process, you can also do on the Split object. So we wanted to make this easy for you. If maybe you're doing some cleanup or maybe you forgot to change it, you can go and change the status here. But the reality is most of you will do this as part of your workflow, right? When you change that feature flag definition or when you begin to run your experiment, you're going to want to change your status at that time. So we wanted to provide you kind of both outlets to be able to do that. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can use that information in filtering, right? So you can filter by any of your statuses in the browse pane. But what's more exciting is really the rollout board, which is what we talked about earlier. And you'll see a few key things here right now. I'm in a demo org, so excuse me, there's not a ton of data in the demo org. I could flip over to our org and show you the hundreds of splits, but you'll see that the rollout board has a few key columns, right? It has all of the columns. That's my dog. I'm sorry. COVID times. You'll see all of the columns here. You can see all the different statuses. I currently don't have any in this demo environment in the pre-production state, but you can see all the way on the right here. You can see kind of that split that we had on the experimenting phase. Now there is some key information on this board, right? Some of which I talked to already, but you can see the number of days in status. Now, demo org, I kind of populated this demo org earlier today. So a lot of this information hasn't aged over time, but you would see here things such as how many days in status has this feature flag been here? Has it been here for 14 days in status, or what does that look like? You'll see some additional information around those traffic indicators, right? Is this feature flag receiving traffic? But you can also begin to customize this board a little bit. And we'll talk a little bit about where we're going in that train in a second. But you can see those flags that are owned by me. You can also see those flags that are starred by me. Or you can essentially come here and kind of show hide some columns, right? Maybe some of these columns are not relevant to you. Now, if we click on any one of these cards, we can actually see a little bit of meta information about it, right? We can see not only the name of the split and quickly get over to the split, but we can also see the description, right? What is this split doing? What is the current status? How many days in status? Who are the current owners, right? Who's responsible for this? What are any tags, right? A lot of you are using tags today, whether that's for setting up tags by team or parts of your product. Maybe you have a front end tag and a back end team tag, or maybe it's a mobile split, right? So using tags to be able to do just that. You can also see when we created this, right? When we created this feature flag within split. Now, the second section here brings in some of that more information that's pertinent to the environment. So you can see within our prod environment, right? Have we received any traffic? You can see if there's any alerts pending, right? Do I have any pending changes? And you can even get some information here about the last edit date. So there's some key information being displayed here, but the kind of key takeaways as you look at this board, and many of you over the last couple of weeks have been asking us to set these statuses for you. You'll be able to see where are your feature flags in their life cycle. And apologies, doing it live. My dog is going off on the male person as they walk by. You'll be able to see where your feature flags are in their life cycle and be able to kind of cross collaborate and communicate that with your team. So that's a little bit on. There's a lot in this, right? We talked about why we built this, some of the benefits of it, how you as a user of Split can benefit. We talked about how to use it, right? How to actually create statuses and use these statuses and associate them to splits and to be able to visualize them within rollout boards. But as with all things software, want to talk a little bit more about where we're going, right? Because this is a kind of a first foundational element of where we're headed. So I'll flip back over to the slides. And we'll go from there and kind of see where we're headed, right? Kind of where are we taking this right now? A lot of what you'll see on these next kind of 2, 3, 4 slides is really kind of, some of this is already in development, right? Some of this we're already working on. Some of this is maybe 1 to 2 months out, but this will give you a good sense directionally of kind of how are we continuing to innovate and kind of push our statuses and rollout boards forward. Now, as Carol mentioned, and as you guys probably saw in some of the releases and blog posts, there is no other product on the market that really does this, right? And so we're continuing to push more into this. We've seen incredibly positive feedback from our customers. Many of you on this call, right, who have been using the product. We've seen incredibly positive feedback, and there's a lot more that we plan to do. So let's dive in a little bit. So first thing is filters, right? So I talked briefly about some of the existing filters that we have. So starred by me, owned by me. You'll be able to get others here, right? So you'll see within the next couple of weeks or about a month or so, you'll see a new icon here show up in the top right called filter. Now, when you click on this, you'll be able to essentially start filtering this board down, right? So maybe you want to find all of the splits that have a particular tag, right? The front end team, you want to find all of their splits. Or maybe you want to find the mobile team, right? Maybe using tags in that instance. Or maybe you want to find a splits that are owned by a particular team, maybe your development team or your web development team. So being able to essentially find those splits. The other is maybe you want to look at things like creation date, right? Which splits are new, which ones actually have been in a status for a long time. So being able to use these filters to essentially customize that view that you care about and being able to kind of get to those things that you care about quickly. Now, the second thing you'll see us continue to push on is once we have filters kind of laid out, we want to give you the ability to save those filters, right? That ability to, I've created this view. Now I want to come back every single time I come back to Split. I want to see the same view, or maybe you actually want to share this across your team, right? So that your team can see all the different visualizations or all the different kind of rollout board visualizations that you and your team have created. And so you'll be able to not only filter here, like we talked about on the last slide, but you'll be able to save down that filter parameter that you've queried by and create this saved view, and also kind of set one to be your default view. So when you load the rollout board for the first time, when you come back to Split, you'll be able to see that view that you care most about. Now, the statuses that you saw in the demo, now I think there's about 8 or so statuses there. Those statuses were set by us, right? Those are statuses from interviews with all of you as we were going through the process of kind of talking to customers to understand the need for this use case, or the kind of this solution to the use case. A lot of what we heard from customers kind of helped us craft those kind of default statuses. Now, fully recognize that no one set of statuses will ever really kind of meet the entirety of the need, right? We try and make our product to be customizable and configurable as much as possible. And so you'll see that ability in the next couple of weeks and months to really customize those statuses, right? Maybe you want to set up your statuses differently. Being able to do just that, you'll be able to, maybe you want to call your experimental phase something else, or you want to change what is 100% released, you want to rename that, or maybe you just want to create something new in the development process. So you'll be able to go through this process of customizing those statuses on a workspace level, so that within a given workspace, you'll be able to set up that rollout board that is most appropriate for the team that's operating within that workspace. Awesome. So I think that might be it. There's a lot in this, right? We've talked about why we built the rollout boards. We've talked about some of the feedback we received early on that kind of got us to this. We talked about some of the benefits to you as a customer. We talked about walked through the demo, right? Saw a little bit of it in action. Now, of course, we have a lot more in our product, and many of you have a lot more in your instances of Split, a lot more data there. But then more importantly, talked about where we're going, right? And what we're adding to this over time. And so I think there might have been some questions. I know, Carol, I've been looking up over here at Carol on my screen over here. There might be some questions that have come in. If there are, happy to answer them now. If not, always happy to kind of hop into Slack. I live in that Slack community channel. If you ever tag me, @reference me, happy to answer any questions as you guys continue to use the product.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor, for taking us through that. So we did have a question come through on whether there are any matching API endpoints for rollout board and statuses.
Yes, that's a good one. And so there are a few, right? As you look at the Split object, so that's what if you go to get a split or list splits, you'll be able to see those statuses on that split. So, our goal is as we continue to push the product forward to make sure that the API is moving in parallel to that. Now, over time, there will be more API enhancements, but as part of the initial release, we wanted to get those existing API endpoints updated so that you could get feature flags and kind of see their current status, et cetera. So those do exist, and we'll continue to build more over time.
Awesome. I think we have time for one more. So someone was asking, what are your thoughts on automation? Because it looks like, there's a lot of rich data that's offered in these cards. How are you thinking about automating the workflow?
Yeah, good question. Either this person has talked to me before and gotten my roadmap pitch before, or kind of sees it the same way. When you looked at the rollout board, if you looked at things such as statuses, right, or the days in status, being able to use that rich meta information is really important, right? And what do I mean by that? There's a few different things, right? How can you automate how statuses are selected, right? So can we be smart about identifying a status and suggesting that for you? But really the second part is I think about automation is much more being able to notify you when feature flags have been in a status for a particular amount of time, right? A flag has been in a status for 21 days, notify me via Slack. Now we have much larger ambitions, right, around where we want to take this. As a feature flag ages, can we work hard with some of our partners, right, our partners at Microsoft and others, to think about how we can automate the removal of that feature flag. But a lot of what you'll see in that rollout board is that ability to hopefully lay the foundation for future points of automation around days and status and other notification mechanisms.
Awesome. That's super exciting. Yeah, I was, obviously really hyped up for these new features when I first caught a demo of Statuses and Rollout Board, because I think it's really going to bring peace of mind for teams as they scale from hundreds to thousands of flags and experiments, and prevent that fear of just logging in one day and realizing you've had a flag sitting in the same status for several weeks that should have been rolled out long ago, and really doing everything that we can to help developers and their managers avoid that. So thank you so much for taking us through Statuses and Rollout Board today. On the next slide, Trevor, if you want to, try out these new features for yourself, definitely sign up for a free trial at split.io/sign up. And as Trevor mentioned, if we didn't get a chance to answer your question, please ping us on Slack at Split Community. And of course, for the customers on the call, we welcome and value your feedback. So please connect with your customer success manager to share your thoughts on how we can improve going forward, because we're going to be bringing newer, better enhancements over time. And that completes our webinar for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Really appreciate it. And yes, if you have feedback, definitely send it. And I know you want drag and drop cards. You already got that feedback. It's on the list. We'll get to it. It's definitely one of our HVTs. But no, thank you for letting me come in and do this. And of course, maybe next time my dog can do it, since he decided he wanted to make a cameo halfway through this. So next time he can join.
Thank him for the guest appearance.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.